Okay. So again, thank you for doing this, Emily.
hmm
Yeah, it's been a long time since we last spoke. So what have you been up to, I guess, in the last decade?
Oh my gosh, wow. What have I been up to since high school? I went to York. I went to York University um for 4 years. So I did actually my degree in dance. So that was a dance. I don't know if you remember, but was a big dancer when I was younger, and I really wanted to keep pursuing that. I went to York and did my Bachelor of Fine Arts, majoring in dance, which was actually a really cool experience. Like, I don't regret it in any way. I think at that time, like most people, we had no, I mean, some people must have, but I had no idea what I actually wanted to do in life. So that was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I love dancing, so I might as well go to school for that. So yeah, I did that. I did 3 years at York, and I went on exchange for a year to London, England to study my third year abroad, which was really such a cool experience. And for dance, especially getting to, be in a different environment. And that was one of my first experiences with like traveling to Europe. So being able, like being there and then,
Mhm.
the time off, it's so easy to go to other places in Europe. So lots of traveling, and then came back, finished my fourth year in Toronto. And then I actually moved to London, England for 2 years after that
Oh,
because I had made like connections and friends. So I spent the next 2 years there, dancing a little bit, but that's actually when I started practicing yoga. So I
mhm.
kind of had finished with dancing, like school was over and I wasn't really in my life anymore, which was such a change for me. So I was like, okay, well, I want to figure out a way where I can still move my body and stay flexible. So yoga was kind of what I went into. And then, yes, I got into it there, just working in studios. I didn't have my training or anything yet, just being involved in studio settings. It's so weird to like recap the past 10 years of my life. Like, and then came back. I moved back to Toronto, so and I've been here ever since. And what have I been doing? Like I've worked. I got a job at like a dance studio for the first little bit, and then I had done my yoga teacher training. So after that point, I started teaching classes. Kind of like a part-time yoga instructor, and then maybe a year, almost 2 years now, I've been teaching, or I was teaching full time. So doing the whole, running around Toronto, teaching 3, 4 classes a day. So really doing that hustle and that grind, and I love it. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
this year was pretty interesting because I was taking at the start. So in January last year, I decided to take 4 months off to travel. I was going to go to India to do my advanced training and to pursue more like yoga training. And I just wanted to, have an experience of traveling. And I
Mhm.
felt kind of burnt out from work and, a little uninspired. So I was like, this is going to be a great change. I'm going to go for 4 months, going to do my training. So my plan was to go to England for a week to celebrate my birthday, and then I was flying from England to India on March 1st. This was last year,
Oh,
and I went to England. And the day before, my dad, because I don't really like follow the news too much. I'm not super into like actual
yeah.
information. So my dad actually was like, "There's a thing happening, and I don't know if you should be going." But this was before it really was like a pandemic, right? This was like
Yeah.
right at the breaking point. But India also kind of was one of the first to get it worse. So, anyways, the day before I was supposed to fly out, I decided to come back to Toronto, postpone the trip, and thank God I did that because I
Yeah.
probably would have been stuck in India. Um, so yeah, I came back. My house was supposed to be my condo. I had rented out. So and it's those people were coming from Iran, which was like the first place to be hit. So they didn't end up being able to come back. So it kind of all worked out.
Hmm.
And I just ended up staying, and I've been out of studios for basically a year now. So I didn't go back to work after like I had taken that time off that I thought was going to be 4 months, and here we are now. So that's kind of the brief rundown of the past little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty detailed. So yeah, I have a lot to go off. I mean, the first thing I want to know is about going to school for dance because it's just so foreign to me. I mean, you said you were a dancer in high school and then you went to school for dance after graduating. But like, what what do you learn in dance school?
Honestly, a lot more academic stuff than I thought I was going to have to do. It was more or less like the 4 years that I was, or the 3 years I was at York specifically, it was kind of, you would have your technique classes. So we did ballet and modern for the most part. So it would be almost like an hour and a half of ballet first thing in the morning, followed by an hour and a half of modern. So your whole morning would be technique based. And then we did just various courses. Like we had to take anatomy courses. We had to take like history of dance. You also had to take like you normally would electives and other courses just to fulfill kind of your certificate or your diploma. Yeah, I took many interesting courses. I took this one course called Canadian Problems. It was the weirdest course. I think it was like I was late to sign up for courses, and that was like the last one that I could take to like be, and I don't know, just a lot of weird shit that I had to take to get a dance degree. But the dancing part and being like, I'm a very active person, so I really enjoyed just having that routine. And we did improv classes, and I was part of the like York Dance Ensemble in the 3rd and 4th year, or I guess I was in it for the 4th year. So that's like you're part of a team, I guess, and putting on performances, traveling around. We did some like routines or performances at the art gallery, stuff like that. So
what do you study in Canadian Problems?
I'm not even gonna lie, my dad wrote my essay in that course. Like I literally was like, I can't. And it's like the joke of our family. My dad was like, you made me write that. I don't even know. It was the weirdest course I've ever taken. And I don't even think I was supposed to be in that course. It just, yeah. But besides those courses, the dance degree overall was a cool experience. Like, I don't regret it. I mean, it obviously, I haven't applied it to really much of my life, but, I still got a degree, which I think I wouldn't have done. I don't think I would have gone to university for anything else. I probably would have just, skipped out on that. So,
well, improv classes are fun. So I was working in Perth, Ontario, which is about an hour west of Ottawa. And I used to drive into Ottawa to do improv classes, probably from September one year to April. I ended up only going to half the classes because I didn't want to drive an hour some days, and other days there was too much snow. But it was really fun. You learned the yes and. I basically did 2 courses, so that's all I remember. But yeah, was that
that's
fun?
Really cool. Yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it. Like I love improv in general. I mean, I think it's tough for some people. It just kind of comes naturally to me, but it was enjoyable. Yeah, I liked it. I like all the creative stuff, really. Like I'm very much more of that creative side as opposed to like academic or anything like that. So I think that's carried through, and going now into more of like yoga, teaching yoga. A lot of it is like being that, like having that creative, and definitely it's helped me having a dance background with like embodying movement. So being able to
Mhm.
do it once, or like do it in yoga, it would be on one side, for example, and then it helps. Like I've never struggled with remembering like the sequencing really, because I think
Okay.
having that dance background, it's you're used to it. You're used to like doing something once and it's in your body. Whereas like you asked me to remember, like I was saying earlier, like my memory is so bad. If you ask me to
Right.
remember like names or something, I wouldn't be able to do it. I have to like be moving. I guess kinesthetic, is that the word?
I
Kinesthetic
think the
learner.
term is you have good muscle memory, you know.
Muscle memory for sure. Which is good
Yeah,
because I
so
have shit memory and everything else. So
well, it's I mean that's so I did yoga for about a year in London. There's a studio called Yoga Center London in downtown, and they
okay.
teach Iyengar yoga.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, I don't really know how I ended up there. I mean, what I'm trying to say is I just emailed the studio and they just said, yeah, come in. So anyway,
Yeah.
I did that for a year and they have different levels. So for about a year, I did the first level, which they have an 8-week cycle where actually don't know what poses they did because I just did whatever they told me. So I don't remember the sequence. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think it really helped me to learn how not flexible I am. Because like the only way you learn that you're not flexible is when you can't do stuff. And in your everyday, if you're just walking around, standing, sitting, you're not really
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what you mean for sure.
so.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think that's the whole thing. I mean, a lot of, yoga instructors are people like, "Oh, you don't need to be flexible to do yoga," which you don't. You 100% don't. But you notice your flexibility when you come to the yoga mat. Like there's just
yeah.
any posture you go through, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I feel really tight here." And you don't, you that's fine, but you're gonna notice it. Like even for me, doing it every day, if I take a day off or my body just feels sore, that's like a good thing about the practice is that you become really aware of how you're feeling in your body. Whereas like
Mhm.
for me, without it, I could go through my entire day not really checking in and noticing if I'm like holding tension anywhere or if I'm feeling like really anxious. It's not until like I come, to practice onto my mat for me personally, where I'm like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of stuff going on in my body today. So yeah, definitely, I know what you mean.
Well, see, like I'm coming at it from kind of like 5 years ago. If I was talking about yoga, I would have a completely different idea. I'd be like, you just, I don't really need it. You're just kind of stretching. You're just doing
Yeah.
this and that. But over time, I've ran pretty regularly. Um, I think I had a calf injury at one point, and then um, I had a couple of other injuries, and then like you kind of realize after some point that um, you're going day to day and something's always hurting. So I couldn't figure out what it
Mm-hmm.
was. So I spent a few months trying to figure out what the problem was. And initially I didn't realize, there was some physical pain. So I thought, oh, it's hard to focus. I'm cranky because, I'm just not thinking properly. So I spent a lot of time meditating. But for me, meditating was just kind of sitting, closing my eyes, and just focusing on breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of led me to the point where I was thinking, oh, like it's always hurting in this spot in the lower back, and that kind of got me interested in a practice like yoga, which kind of teaches you how to move your body. But it's just weird because I appreciate it now, but if you try to explain something, if you explain it to somebody, you won't understand unless you have a reason to get into it. And for me, that reason was pain. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how, I mean, like, how did you get into it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, how did I start practicing, or how did I find
Yeah.
like that I liked it and enjoyed it?
Just like how you kind of transitioned into it from your dancing background, I guess.
Yeah, like honestly, like I was saying, it was just because I wanted to, for me, after university ended, I was kind of terrified because I'm like, okay, I'm used to my body being flexible, and like I'd been dancing since I was 4, and then through university, oops, sorry. So that's like so much of my life. And I think, after university too, there's so many changes that's happening. You're like, oh my God, I'm in like the world now and I don't know what I'm doing. So and not to mention I had moved, like I was saying, I'd moved to London, England. So like this
Mm.
massive city. I didn't know anyone. Like I just made the decision to go. I didn't even have like a place or anything. I was just like, I just need to do this. So one, I found yoga because I would say primarily because I needed something to stay active and something that I wanted to um like mimic what I had found in dance. Um and two, once I started it, it wasn't only the movement and the stretching, it was like community for me and
Oh.
being able to feel like safe in a space, and feeling like, oh, I like it immediately felt like home for me in a way. And I
Mhm.
being in a new environment and a new city after graduating, like I needed that sense of grounding. So I think I came initially through the movement and the stretching, but I definitely stayed for everything else that it had to offer. And I think like you're right, like everyone finds the practice, or people who find it, they find it for different reasons. And like a lot of times it is injury, like people are struggling with injury or low back pain, and like doctors now are just prescribing like yoga, or like, a lot of movement. A lot of people are telling people to come to yoga, and there's so many different like ways yoga can be practiced. But um, a lot of the time people come to classes, or that I've connected with, it's over pain, or it's like they wouldn't have found it unless their their body needs it. And then I think they stay because they realize that this is such like an integral part of your life. Like we need to be moving and stretching and
Yeah.
breathing, and just in whatever way that is. Like it doesn't need to be the physical yoga practice, but I think it just has so many benefits, whether you're young, like middle aged, old. Like I teach like chair yoga classes to seniors. So
Oh.
I think like that's another big area for that to come into with elders, and just keeping mobility and stability up in their body. So it's just there. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like shocked that I never really had thought about it sooner. Like, and I think yoga also blew up recently. Like I think that it was there, but I think recently it's been such a almost trend. And like
Mhm.
that's a whole another conversation about just, you know, Western yoga and and all that. But
Well, I mean,
yeah.
um, based on what I know about the history of yoga, it's basically a physical science. Your postures will the way you move your body, what postures you choose will either like if you're in pain or something, it'll counteract that or tend to it over time. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you have some kind of problem with like my personally was um like randomly, even now, every now and then I'll just say something in a conversation. It's like a really rude remark, and then I'll immediately notice my back really hurts, my lower back. So I'm not saying I'm rude only because of lower back pain, but there's some kind of relationship there. I can't describe it definitively, but yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it's a science that teaches you the relationship between the body, how you move, and how you interact with the world.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, now too, like why I think it's become so popular in our day and age is like, look at what everyone's doing. Like we're all on our computers, we're all on our phones, we're all just like so much of our posture is like here, right? So of course
Mm.
we're gonna struggle with back pain and like earlier like at a younger age, we're gonna, suffer from these aches and pains. And you're like, yoga has a way of correcting, like we have those corrective postures. So if you're here all day, then you're gonna want to find shapes that are more opening and things that you wouldn't do day to day necessarily. Yeah, so that's good that you got into it though. Like, it's nice that you've given it a shot. And do you feel like you were saying that you have lower back pain? Like, have you ever noticed, like, have you done it consistently enough to notice if by doing yoga or stretching in general that it's helped relieve any pain?
I would say when I first started going to the studio in London, the first session was an 8-week session, and it was once a week. So I'd already paid the full amount, so I decided I'll go for the 8 classes. And initially week to week, in the first 2-3 weeks, I didn't really notice much, but I just kept going back. And by the end of it, I did notice something. I can't really describe what it was, but when your body's not in a good place, you notice even the smallest improvements. So it was just like that. And then I just kept going back. But I haven't gone back for a year. They had to close because of the COVID situation.
Yeah.
And now they're doing online classes, but I'm not really, I don't know. I'm not really about that. I like going there because in one class, an hour and a half, we do 6, maybe 8 postures. And then the teacher would go around the class and kind of tell you, oh, you need to raise your arm a little bit. You have to adjust your back, stop curving your back, that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed that.
It's changed. Yeah. It's changed the way that like people can instruct, and people just, I guess, are kind of make do with what with what they can do. And virtual is, I think virtual learning in general has a place. Like, it's provided many benefits, and I want to stay like part like of my work virtually. Like, I think there's so much benefit from it. And I don't know, even just connecting, like, not specifically this, but with friends like who I haven't seen or talked to. Like, I'm really bad with keeping in touch, but I think being on Zoom now so much, it's easier to be like, okay, we can schedule like a Zoom meeting or a catch up, and like conversations or friends that I haven't seen from England or abroad. And it's like, it's proven to be beneficial, like to keep those contacts. And like certain things too can be done on Zoom. I'm like, this meeting we can definitely just hold on Zoom. I do not need to travel, commute like an hour to get there. Like, let's have this 20-minute meeting on Zoom. Like, that stuff I'm excited to carry forward with. But in terms of teaching and getting back into the space, it would be so nice too. Because the practice is like community environment. Like, you need that. And I think as an instructor too, you give so much energy each class. Like, and this can go for anything, but like you're physically talking and moving. Now on Zoom, I'm doing the full practices, which you wouldn't, traditionally I wouldn't be doing in studio settings. Because like you said, you're walking around, you're adjusting, you're not just on your mat. So it's been exhausting physically doing every practice and then talking through every practice, like you're talking for that full hour, 45 minutes. So it is quite draining. But when you're with other people, you get the connection, you get the feedback, you get the love, but then virtually you just don't really get anything, right? Like, you're just like, all right. And then everyone's gone off the screen, and most of the time it's just black boxes. So it's definitely been a shift. And like, I'm so amazed with everyone who is switched to virtual, like whether they're just school teachers or whatever it is. Like, it's challenging. And the Zoom burnout is definitely a real thing. It's like, I thought I was burnt out before. Now I'm like, okay, I can't wait to get back and like move around the city and just change up my scenery as well. So hopefully soon.
I did the one Zoom class with you, and initially I had my camera on, so I just assumed that in a Zoom class the instructor is just gonna kind of watch and tell you if you're doing it right. But after a while, I noticed all the other people, they had black boxes, so I was like, okay, I better turn it off.
I think it depends. Like some instructors are very like, leave your camera on if you can leave your camera on. I don't want to be that person because honestly, sometimes when I'm taking classes, I also just want to like do my own thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I find like in a studio setting, it's so easy to go up and correct someone or adjust them, and it's okay. I I personally don't like it when I'm on classes and the instructors are like at the screen, like staring at me. Like I feel more judged virtually than I would in like a class, right? Because they're kind of like at the screen, yeah, and their head is just there. So I don't like I'm not really down for that. I just I think you're doing what you can and you're at your own
Yeah.
space, and also the fact that you are home, and I want to be like considerate around about people's surroundings and whatever
Oh
it
yeah.
may be. So I'm never gonna like force people to to keep their cameras on or ask that of them. um but I do also understand if I'm taking a class and people ask for that, where you definitely get more. At least you can
Mhm.
see people moving and you can have more of a connection. But yeah, it's I'm not that person. I'm not like, I don't want to come up to the screen and be like, hey, your arm. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that would be weird because everyone else is just hearing you talk about some other person,
I
and they're
know,
just
right? It's
watching
like
that.
I feel like it's more singled out. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
but in a studio, it's just like common knowledge that you're coming, you're gonna get
yeah.
corrected. It's also a lot easier to see like someone's physical body. Obviously, in real life, on a screen, the tiny screen, it is
Mm,
hard to make corrections, and um, yeah. So that's kind of where where it's at virtually.
mm. So yeah, I did a style called Iyengar yoga. Do you have your own style, or how does the style work? What were you trained in?
Yeah. So I mean, the main style of yoga I teach is vinyasa, which is kind of, I think, the class that you took. So there's different like areas around vinyasa, but vinyasa is literally just movement with breath. So it's
Okay.
not a set sequence, um, like some of the other styles are. Vinyasa, I mean, I think I connect with vinyasa one of the most is because it's creative. Like as an instructor,
Mm,
you can create each flow. Like I always do different things, always. Like I don't think I've ever taught the same class twice. Like I just can't. So
oh, okay.
it's just um yeah, you're creating the flow. You move through like chaturanga if you know those, or just a certain pattern of movement. So yeah, primarily I teach that. I'll teach like some yin style classes, which is just like a deep stretch, more or less. You're holding
Mhm.
postures for longer periods of time. Um, and like slow flow classes, I would still say they're vinyasa style. It's not, there's a style called hatha yoga. I don't really teach that too much. I mean, I think I just overall I'm most comfortable teaching vinyasa. Like that's where I
Mm,
feel confident that as an instructor, and I enjoy taking vinyasa practices because they are like fun and creative, and I get bored easily. Like so I just want, it's hard for me
yeah.
to come back and do the exact same. And I know there's benefit to it, but for me I can, I'm just like, oh, I have to do this again. Like I just want to have fun and move around on my mat. I don't want to be so strict and
Mm.
kind of, yeah, strict with what my body is doing.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear because I really like the structured classes because I mean, I think it's personally because my mind is always on like a million things. So if I'm doing a structured physical thing, at least I'm grounded in that way so that
Yes,
I know what the body's doing. But
yes,
I think like I really admire creativity in movement, especially because
Mm.
I don't really have that. So I'm just, I'm trying to build in that structure, but it is cool how you can kind of like no one really talks about creativity in movement. I mean, I guess you do because have a background in dance, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Like I think it's incredible to be able to express, and that's why I love teaching, because it's like whatever I'm feeling on that day, I can put out, and if it resonates, it resonates. And if it doesn't, then it just doesn't on that day for certain people. But it allows me to like show up every day kind of where I'm at, as opposed to just forcing something that maybe I'm not feeling. Days I want to take it a little slower, I'm going to take it a little slower. And yeah, but I also agree with what you said of having practices that are structured. I kind of got into a style of practice that's like that before COVID, just practicing. And I probably learned some of like the most stuff about myself during those practices, and just because it was so different from what I was used to. Um, and that was the practice that I really started to see my myself get like better and more stronger, almost, because I was coming back and I was doing the same things each week.
Mm.
I could see myself growing in my practice, which I'm not like too worried about that. I think I'm at the
Yeah.
point where I'm just, if anything, I was there maybe at the beginning where I was like, I'm taking all these like hot yoga classes, and it was more about like what you looked like doing it, or how strong you were, how flexible you are. And now I'm like, I'm old. Like my practice is so much more like, I still like doing trick stuff, but I think as an instructor, it's very much more just being embodied and intuitive.
Yeah, you're so right about getting old because um, I like running, but now I really have developed a recovery routine because you go for a run, you're pounding your legs, you come back, everything around your knee, like your calves and your um, like tendons and everything, it just hurts. So, I'm really using the ice, the hot baths, like
Oh
the
no.
oils,
How
like
often are you running?
not so much these days. These days it's once or
Mm-hmm.
twice a week. But last year, yeah, I don't know. I was running about 15 kilometers a week for a long stretch. So I
Wow,
mean,
good
it's
for
a lot
you.
for me, but
I mean, that's a lot. I am also not a runner, although I think I hopped on the bandwagon like most people at the start of quarantine. Like, I need to
oh
get
yeah.
outside and I need to exercise. So I gave it a shot, and I think, yeah, the the most I went, I think, was 7 kilometers, and I was like, wow, she's a runner. Like, I was so impressed with myself. Because
That's
I
funny.
like literally I'm like 2K max, and I
Mm.
enjoy it. Like, I've been trying to get out now. The weather's been nicer, but I don't know. It just I don't think it's for me. I also get really bad like knee pain, joint pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is
I
what it
think, I
is.
mean,
But there's something about running. Like, there's a nice feeling about
oh yeah.
after running. You don't really get that with anything else. And I think because so much of my exercise is on a mat and just in one place, so it
Hmm.
does feel so nice post run.
Yeah.
But during,
Well,
mm-mm.
see, I have this thing where I mean, I think it's a problem. I just look for things that are kind of annoying or I don't really want to do and just try to challenge myself to keep doing it. So I
that
think
that sounds that sounds kind
coming
of
up
like a prep.
coming up next month, I'm thinking of doing a running challenge, which is, run 2K every day, basically. So I
Yeah.
know it's going to be tough because I tried it before, and by the fifth day, everything hurts, and you just have to keep going. So yeah, it's just going to be so like you got to do it because it's tough. but at the same time, you need a good recovery routine because I don't want to get like seriously injured. So,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
yeah. So,
Gotta do yoga.
well, yeah, that's part of it. Like, I guess I have my own practice, but it is kind of freestyle. It's like I'll watch videos of exercises like
Yeah, there's tons
crunches,
of stuff too
sit-ups.
on YouTube
Yeah.
for like runners. Like there's tons of stretches that you could, look up and specifically for running because I think that's such a niche with people having injuries or pains and specific
Mm.
stretches that you could get into. But for sure, that's a great challenge. That sounds great. And I hope you succeed. Just make sure you take care of your body as well because yeah, for sure.
Well,
Sometimes I feel like we can get. Sorry, go ahead.
no. The problem is I was just thinking about it, but now that I said it, I basically have to do it. So we'll see how it goes in
It's
March. I mean
out there
April.
in the universe.
Yeah. Um, so like so you mentioned before COVID you were going around to different studios to teach. So
Mhm.
uh, is that common among instructors where you're kind of freelancing, and how does that work?
Yep. I mean, yeah, I definitely went into professions that are not stable. Like, yeah, so you're just you're self-employed essentially. Um, so you would get like, you would pick up a class. Each studio kind of has its own what they can pay you. Obviously, you can kind of talk about it and discuss it depending on how experienced you are, different pay levels. And yeah, because you're self-employed, I guess that's the idea, right? You just want to be able to teach as much as you can because that's your source of income. But it's hard because like you're not getting paid for the travel time, and that's such a
Oh
big
yeah.
part of it. Like if I think back to when I was teaching, say if I was teaching like three, like normal would be maybe about three classes a day for me. So it would be like something like a 7:30 in the morning, a noon, and a 5:30. So it's like literally your day.
Yeah.
But you're only getting paid for that one class.
Right.
Not to mention, like I would teach downtown. I don't know if you're familiar with Toronto, but like I would teach downtown, I would teach uptown, and then I would teach like midtown. So it would literally just be
Oh,
like
okay.
that. So it's challenging, definitely. It's rewarding, but it's challenging. So I think when the pandemic hit and it was like, oh, teaching from home, there's so much
Mm.
benefit to that as well because you do save so much time. I save so much money on food and coffees out because I would be like out all day long and just starving. Whereas now, like I'm home and I could just have a snack here. So I've definitely, was able to save and TTC pass or whatever it is that you're doing. So um, yeah, so I like still now I'm self-employed. I started like my own business, which has been very interesting. And I'm still teaching for a couple studios, all virtual right now. But once things open up, hopefully, we'll get back into the space. But the main studio I was working for before everything happened shut down within the first month of COVID, which a lot of small businesses did, right? So
Yeah.
I'm lucky that the other ones I've worked for are all still around, struggling, but still around. But the main one I worked for shut down, and I was working. They had 3 locations, so that was like my main source of work. So when
Wow.
that hit, I was like, oh wow, like for the first little bit, I was basically completely unemployed. So that's when
Yeah.
I started to be like, I need to take this and try to make something out of it on my own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The studio I went to in London, the teacher, the owner, there were 4 teachers, 4 or 5 teachers, and the owner was one of them. If I remember correctly, they've been teaching in London for like 20 years or something, and they had to
Mm,
shut down the physical studio. So that's crazy. No one was expecting, like, who would have guessed this would have happened like 2 years ago. It's
Yeah,
crazy, and it's a good thing Zoom is there, because my guess is you'll probably do a combination moving forward. Um,
I think so too. Because some people are like do enjoy virtual, right? And it's easier for them. So the studios that I work at now, they have it so you can like you can teach from the studio. So when we can have people back in the space, you can teach there, but also have it recording. So you're kind of doing both. So people can watch it virtually at that time and people can come live to the classes.
yeah. So yeah, um, that's pretty awesome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good luck. I mean, you're so I do you have it's your yoga classes are your website is Downs Yoga, right? .com?
Yeah, it is. So I started I made that website I think it was in November. So it's been not that long and definitely learning curve. I had worked like at many yoga studios prior when I was in England doing like front desk or reception stuff. So
Oh.
luckily I have that like I'm familiar with the kind of technology or the platforms that were used and familiar with classes and pricing and all that. So that was a big
Mm.
asset for me. Um, so doing my website was a big thing, getting it so, the booking is set up on the website, which is really cool. And now it's just
Yeah.
like, it's just going to take time, and I think like I'm so happy to have people who are willing to come and practice with me. Like it's
Hmm.
honestly the biggest accomplishment I think I've done is just
Yeah.
to be able to provide my own classes and to feel like people want to come and practice and support, which means so much. And it's just like I have big plans, like I think I want to continue with this. Ideally I
Mm.
would love to open or rent a space post everything and offer some live classes, some still virtual
Yeah.
classes. I've also during quarantine got my personal training kind of certificate fitness. So now I'm like a
Oh yeah.
personal trainer, fitness instructor, which has been a really cool experience because that's something I've been into as well, but it's new and it's like exciting. So kind of working to get more onto that side, working with a team and just building up more classes and more personal training stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You got a
exciting and
lot
it's
going
it's
on.
a lot. It is a
Yeah.
lot, yeah. And it's weird like working for yourself and being your own boss and being home all the time. Like it's just the strangest the strangest year. Like since not going to India and just thinking I was going to take 4 years off or 4 months off and come back and teach
Yeah.
in the studios to now, so much has changed. So
Well, the one class I did take, it was definitely creative. I
yes,
haven't seen some of those moves, but to be honest, I think I followed you for like half an hour, and then I was actually, it wasn't because it was hard. Um, I think on that day, the class I did was, I believe it was around like 5:30 or 6:30 or something, and it
mm-hmm.
was your slow flow, I believe. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
whatever is the chill one, the simple one that you do.
Yes, slow flow.
Um, so that was actually like my fourth workout of the day. Kind of, I'd gone for a jog, I'd gone for a walk, and I'd done some kind of workout. So about halfway through, I just
So you were,
realized,
yeah,
okay, I think I'm done. But it was really good. It's just I personally like the whole in person thing. But for whoever does want to do yoga and they like virtually, it's a great option.
yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate you trying it out too. Like you never know until you try it out. So it's nice
Yeah.
to have people, come and support in that way. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully I would love to be able to have a space and do live classes. I think that will be so nice. I live here in a condo in Toronto, and also before COVID, I was teaching classes. We have a gym that like no one uses, and there's a yoga studio in it. So it was really cool because I was able to kind of offer some live yoga classes for the building. Anyone in the building who wanted to come down. So that was fun. And then of course, like that was a couple months, and then the gym here has been shut down as well.
Yeah.
But now that the weather's getting nice, like park yoga is a thing and classes outside is
Oh
a
yeah.
thing. Yeah, so I think I'm looking forward to that. Like I love doing exercise outside, so
Are you gonna do
hopefully
the park yoga?
I think so. Yeah, I did a few classes last year, or last summer, I guess. And there's like places close by, so I'm hoping that will be something that I can do and kind of transfer maybe some of the virtual classes to outdoors,
Mm.
and then see where life goes from there.
Well, it's things are definitely moving toward opening up. I just read a news headline today in Canada. Uh, they've administered 1 million vaccine doses. So that means, well, it doesn't mean necessarily 1 million people have gotten it, but at most a
Yeah,
million. Um, so yeah, it's vaccines are coming out. People will take it. Obviously, some people won't, which is a fine.
yeah,
But the good thing is things are opening up. I mean, in London, it's pretty chill because it's not no, it's nowhere near as case heavy as Toronto. But
yeah. I feel
yeah,
like Toronto, we've just been like lockdown, like
yeah,
this. So like yoga studios is a good example because they are like probably one of the first things, or fitness, whatever gyms, one of the first things to close. And
mm,
I've been through this whole year, I've been in the studio 1 month, I think. So 1 month
no,
out of this whole year, we've been like open to gyms, meaning that no wonder these studios are struggling, right? It's been
mm,
literally the majority of this entire year they've been closed. And then like I think since we just recently went into like the first stage past complete lockdown, I don't even
oh
watch
yeah,
it anymore. I'm just like, oh, we're open to go
oh
out
yeah,
again. Okay, like
you're
we
just
were
at
like
home
just
working.
literally at home. Yeah, and I got a puppy, as most people did during
Oh yeah,
lockdown. So that's been interesting too. My journey with teaching yoga was fun at the start when she was just a little one, and I'm teaching from home, and she's just like every time I'm on my mat, she thinks it's playtime, right? So
oh
we've
I saw your story. She's trying to chew on your foot.
oh, I mean, she's like 9 months now. I mean, still a puppy, but
Yeah,
she just has so much freaking energy, and she's so much better now. We've kind of taught her like it's yoga time. Like you need to just be on your mat,
yeah,
which or be on your bed, which she does now, which is great because at the start it was like I couldn't keep her in the room because she would bark. And then if she was out, obviously I'm like doing all these shapes on the mat. So she's like, oh, it's fun. Let me jump all over her. And I'm trying to be like
yeah.
super calm teaching yoga while this like puppy is biting my hand with her sharp ass teeth. So
Oh
yeah, but she's
yeah.
good now. And yeah, and it honestly it's been a great thing like to have her during quarantine because we're home and it's nice to have that extra love around the house, but also she was able to be with us so much. So growing up that was nice for her and easier to be
Yeah.
home and walk her and take her out. So I get why a lot of people got got dogs during this time.
Well, I'm sure she's gonna be looking forward to park yoga too. So there's always
Oh
that.
yes, she will absolutely love it. Her down dog is killer. She's the best
That's
the
sad.
best
I hope
the
so.
best
She is a dog.
she's the best yoga dog. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, thanks again for chatting. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
of
cool
course.
to learn about being a yoga instructor and how it kind of works because I'm always just a student. I don't have any
Yeah.
intention of being an instructor, but it's always good to know. And
Yeah, of course.
best of luck
It's nice
with
to
your
thank you.
business.
Yeah, it was nice to catch up with you. And I mean, I know it's the whole part point of it that you kind of asked me questions. I feel like have no idea what you're up to, but maybe we'll have to catch up another time and I'll get to ask
Yeah.
you questions instead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm down. The podcast or not, we'll set something up. We'll just have a chat.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's nice to see you. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy this warm weather. Hopefully it's gonna last and it's gonna stay.
Yeah, you too.